present any questions that you may have, and I will answer them to the best of my ability.
So let me start off with the first question. Mr. Northington, can you explain to us exactly what are restricted funds, what are unrestricted funds, and what are restricted funds, and how does the foundation use that to assist the university?
Okay, well, I'll start with the unrestricted side, because I know that's the magic, or that's the question of the day in itself. But unrestricted funding is just a means for the foundation to raise dollars to assist the university, and in essence, a foundation, in supporting the different initiatives that are happening on campus. We may not have the opportunity for a college or a department to be able to support something that they want to do, like buy equipment, have opportunities to invite guests to campus to share information with our students. So we can use dollars and unrestricted dollars in that respect. Like I said, it's I think it's labeled on the giving form as for the greatest need of the university. And we look at different things. It could be, it could be athletics. It could be a number of things that we can use unrestricted funding for that immediately impacts that area within the campus community. As it relates to restricted funds, it's defined there. It's restricted in nature. Talking to Hadari earlier in the week, I used the Detroit chapter as an example. You have a Detroit chapter scholarship fund, and the criteria on that fund states that, and hence restricts that those dollars only be utilized to provide scholarships to Detroit students or students in the surrounding Detroit area. So that's primarily what we have within the foundation, those restricted funds for, it could be geographical, it could be academic based, it could be program based. But those dollars that are restricted based on the criteria that's established when the fund is set up. I think if you really look at it, probably about 95% of the accounts that we have are restricted. So that's why we're pushing up the effort to raise unrestricted dollars, so we have more flexibility to support any area that needs something more immediate and accessible to them for whatever initiative they may have in place.
Anybody else has any questions? I don't want to hog up all the time. Please feel free to ask Mr. Norton at this time.
Mr. Norton, what is your capital campaign? Is there a capital campaign for TSU going on?
Is there an active capital campaign? No, yes. There is not. We have attempted, and I'm gonna say attempted, a capital campaign to assist in the infrastructure around the campus. The capital campaign is basically, when you really look at it, it would be where funding is going to be restricted to build residential, whether it be apartments or dorms or a facility within the campus. That's just the capital side of it. Now, within a capital campaign, you can have many components within that campaign. It could be funding to raise or increase endowments. It could be, as I said, for facilities. It could be for scholarship. You can have a mass or a broad campaign to where we need to raise dollars that's for scholarship that's going to assist across the board. There will be no, say, restriction on a specific area. It would be dollars that would be available to support students as they matriculate through the university. Now, would something as far as scholarship be selective or maybe restrictive? Yeah, we would look at those that are performing academically at the top. yeah, they would more than likely be the ones that are supported the most. But it doesn't knock out any of the other students as it relates to them being able to stay. Because you look at it, the question that I always get as it relates to scholarship, what does it cost for a student to go to TSU? And since, you know, the time that we were in school, it's almost, you look at it, it was almost like they were giving us money to come to school. Whereas now that's not the case. So case in point, it costs about $15,000 a year for a Tennessee student to go to TSU. And that's all inclusive, tuition, room, board, fees, so forth. But an out-of-state student, it's roughly $30,000 for them to be at TSU and handle the financial or the fiscal side of the cost of being at TSU. But as far as the capital campaign, no, we don't have an active one. Will there be one in the future? That's really up to executive administration, whether we have a capital campaign.
I know this pandemic has impacted all of us. How has it impacted you in terms of trying to raise funds?
I'll put it this way right now. I was looking at our numbers. We're probably about $500,000 behind last year. And that's due to several different things. I'm going to say that I think the pandemic in itself has restricted us in bringing funds in because, and from what I'm hearing, you have a lot of people that have lost employment. You have individuals that have decided to redirect their dollars elsewhere as it relates to the pandemic. They're helping family, they're helping friends. It really depends. One thing I have noticed though, as it relates to this time, the gifts that we're getting are larger. I did notice that. So we're not having the situation of where we have more alum giving or giving as a whole. The numbers are down, but the amount of the one-time gift is higher. And that's strange to me. That's something that we would have to do an analysis on, but it's well, prime example. I looked out what happens when we have individuals who give gifts online. I get a notification saying this credit card contribution has come in. One day I looked up, it was $7,000. Another day I looked up, it was $10,000. I got a call from someone. And this is serious. I got a call from a gentleman actually last week, but we followed up this week. They want to give $10,000 at least. Well, I guess in essence, it'd be about $20,000 a year for the next. He said that he would do 5 years, and he said, "Well, we might do 10." You never know. But this right here, as you all have seen, now I don't know if this is pandemic related or if this is the Black Lives Matter movement or what. We got the money through Peyton Manning. He gave us $208,000.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I've experienced over these 23 years. You never know what will come through the door based on the stewardship that you provide and the way that you're treating your donors as it relates to keeping them engaged, keeping them involved. You just never know. It never fails. We'll have, during the fiscal year, we'll get a gift that we had no idea we were going to get. And when I say a gift we didn't know, it's a sizable gift. And you just have to, I always say you have to ride that wave because you just never know. We're coming upon the end of this calendar year. Yeah, it's been a rough 2020, but it never fails. You'll get a gift like December 31st. You wasn't expecting it, but it's there. You can only do is acknowledge the individual and move forward. And then you hope that you can keep that relationship to where it's a constant inflow in support of TSU. They may have, I always say they may have had a either an aha moment, a thank you Jesus moment, and they just wanted to bless TSU during that moment. But to answer your question, the pandemic it's had some weird effects as it relates to giving as a whole. But I'm thinking that I'm hoping that we'll have a good year by the time we get to June 30th as a whole. So yeah.
That's excellent. That's what I was thinking is, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah,
$10,000.
Well, I mean, we get those, but you keep in mind though, with those dollar amounts, more than likely they're restricted.
Mhm.
So you have to look at that in the picture too.
For those who just are joining, if you have any questions for Mr. Northington pertaining to unrestricted and restricted funds or just the University Foundation, please feel free to ask those questions at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Northington and this Tony Lyons. I have a question for you. Just
Morning,
what
sir.
is the process that's used between the foundation and the university for the university to request funds, and what percentage of funds raised is available to the university in a given year, kind of thing?
Last year, I'm gonna answer that question this way first. Last year, we received about $5 million in contribution. That's on the high end for us. Just for that area, we got dollars in for many different things, but we got about 5 million. Now, as it relates to how the university uses or requests the funds, they really don't request the funds. What we do as a foundation, our main mission is to support the university and its initiatives, meaning inclusive of scholarship, departmental support, college support as a whole. So what we do, I'm gonna use scholarship for an example. We award about $2 million annually in scholarships, and that's all inclusive. That would be inclusive of Detroit's fund that they have within the foundation, Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, that's all inclusive, departmental scholarships, so forth. We have a process in place to where, as far as the scholarships, the students go online each February. We have an application process for about 45 days. We'll open it up about mid-February and close it at the end of March. And it gives us the opportunity for students to go out and apply for scholarships that they see that they're eligible for. It's not saying that they will actually get it, but it gives them the opportunity to apply for the scholarships. And then those that are chosen, we have a process that they have to do certain paperwork, and we forward that information on to financial aid at the university to pay, to apply to their accounts. As it relates to departments, if they need to purchase something, they have, each college has a fund within the foundation to support their annual initiatives. If they need to buy supplies, if they need to pay for memberships, if they need to have any type of development activities or meetings for their faculty, they submit through what we call, through our procurement system, we call it SciQuest. They submit that information or that request through that system. We review and approve, and in many cases, sometimes disapprove some of the requests, but it goes through that process so that vendor that they're requesting the service from can be paid to facilitate or to pay for that individual or individuals' participation in whatever they're trying to do for that particular period. But I'm hoping this is answering your question, but we utilize, that's how funding goes to the university. or pays for things on behalf of the university.
Okay. And as far as the unrestricted funds that are raised in any given year, I mean, in terms of those funds being available to the university, do you pretty much disperse what's raised in any given year, or do you disperse a percentage of that, or?
Well, we disperse based on need. We
Okay.
you have to keep in mind the foundation is a separate entity from the university, yes. But like I said, its main purpose is to support the university. So everything that all requests are either done through the procurement system or through transfer, through request. Any requests, in many cases that are requested through the foundation, have to be presented to the foundation board, and then it goes from there. But
Okay.
we establish a budget annually. The foundation board utilizes those dollars to take care of those, make sure they take care of their due diligence, and then in essence also take care of university requests.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Anyone else with any other questions for Mr. Northington? So, Mr. Northington, another question that I would like to know is, what are you looking at the previous years of what the foundation has raised and the university requests in regards to unrestricted funds? What do you foresee as the biggest needs before this fiscal year ends, as well as looking toward the future? What are some of the biggest needs for the university?
Well, I mean, the biggest need is scholarship. First and foremost, that's the biggest need. And when you think of unrestricted, we ask for unrestricted funding to support the scholarship effort, so that when you have the situation of scholarships being restricted, that unrestricted component allows you to help any and all students. It doesn't just look at a student from any geographic area. It's looking abroad, whether in state or out of state. And that's a situation that we deal with each year during the application process. Because of what I stated earlier, it costs $30,000 for an out-of-state student to attend TSU. And you look at the overall makeup of our campus, all those out-of-state students come from a low-income background. I mean, that's just being straightforward. Yeah, we have and I'm assuming that each one of us have children, or soon to have children that may, want to come to TSU, and we've been given the opportunity to increase our fiscal wealth, I'll put it that way, and maybe send our kids to school. But you still have those students that are first time or first generation students coming to TSU, looking to change their cycle. When I mean change their cycle, change the outlook of what they're dealing with now, for a better outlook for themselves moving forward. So you have a lot of those students that rely on financial aid in respect to, what can I think of it? Pell grants. Mainly, we try to assist students, or try to give them a background on loans, because I know many of us had to deal with the loan side of it, and that's a heavy weight coming out of college. So we try to find scholarship dollars that they don't have to pay back, to help them move forward and not have that weight on their shoulders going out of school. But you have to look at that being the most important thing as it relates to those unrestricted dollars in itself. I mean, to me, I think that's the main focus. Yeah, we need facilities and so forth, but if you don't have the students there's no need for the other pieces. I mean, when you just really look at it, it's a situation of, they have to be our first and foremost thing that or individuals that we look at in order for us to have sustainability as an institution.
So the donations that have been recently been reported, such as Bank of America, Peyton Manning, as you mentioned, alumnus Robert Covington. Can you just clarify which ones were restricted and unrestricted? I believe Covington's was restricted because
all of them are restricted.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say that because I haven't gotten any additional information on the Covington gift yet. I'm not saying his is for a facility. It's restricted to that capital. The Bank of America, that one surprised me. I saw it on the news just like everybody else did. So I have to. I'm pretty sure that one is going to be somewhat restricted. I'm not going to say completely, but somewhat restricted in nature. But and I'll say we got the first portion of it. I will say that. So we're working through that one. Peyton Manning's is restricted due to the fact that the student has to be. It's only for one kid. That can basically have their scholarship throughout the matriculation. Its significance about an $8,000 a year scholarship. So to answer that question, that's the easiest part. It's more like all of them are restricted. But you on occasion you'll get those unrestricted ones in, but not. We haven't had many at the dollar amount, just completely unrestricted. No.
Anyone else with any further questions for Mr. Northington? This is your time to ask. Any question is a good question. You can also put your questions in the chat if you don't feel like speaking.
Yeah, I see something's down here now. Let's see what we got.
That was just me letting people know.
That's you? Okay. Also keep in mind, if you have any questions after the fact, you can always email me. My email is bnorthington@tnstate.edu. And my office number is 615-963-5522.
Hi, this is Denise Sampson. I joined a little bit late, but I do have a question. Can you define unrestricted and restricted again?
Yeah. I'll start on the opposite end there. Restricted is just that it's restricted in some form or fashion. When we establish scholarships, a lot of the times they're going to be restricted in, maybe geographically. I used the example earlier that the Detroit chapter scholarship is restricted to students from Detroit. It may have a restrictive GPA on it, minimum GPA. It can be restricted in the format of what major the student is trying to get a degree in. It can be restricted in trying to think what else we have on. I'll tell you what we cannot restrict it on. It cannot be restricted based on race, sex, or religious component at all. So you have that, but that covers the restricted side. As it relates to unrestricted, is that it doesn't restrict us in what we can use the funding for. And when I say for the funding for, how the foundation can use the funding. The foundation is there to support the initiatives of the university. And then you have those departments, the college itself have opportunities to present to the foundation a request. And if it's something that is approved, those dollars are paid for out of that unrestricted funding. Many times we also award scholarships that students need. You might have believe it or not, we can have some academically talented students and they not one scholarship. It just works that way sometimes. So we can look at that and say, well, this student is performing at the highest. We need to support them. We take those unrestricted dollars and support that student.
Got it.
That's how we have to work that one.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. So I am an alumni, but I'm also representing my company, DTE, and I actually have sent you a few emails this week. So we're trying to get you guys established as a vendor so that we have some funding available that we need to spend by the end of this year.
Okay.
So I sent you a few emails as well as Miss Iris Rami.
Yeah, are you with DTE?
DTE, yep. Yes, I am.
Took care of that yesterday. I talked to a Miss Katrina to help me get some things from my end, because initially it went through Iris, but she sent it to me, and we finally got it sent out there. I hit that review button on last night.
Okay, sounds good. Perfect.
Yeah, so as long as I guess everything is out there, it'll flow in. So I'm expecting to hear something, I guess, next week?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So my follow-up question to that, so with my company trying to support, we have to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate of how we provide funding. So we were specifically wanting to fund the College of Engineering because that's where our company is an engineering-based company. So we want to do more recruiting and establish some type of partnership.
Okay.
But then we've been having some discussions, and what we had done was place it in different categories. And I don't know if that's going to be considered restricted or unrestricted, but the categories are such as, a book scholarship or funding for capstone projects materials,
right.
or the organizations such as NSB Suite or
right. Well, you've already restricted it because you restricted it to the College of Engineering.
Okay.
So, I mean, in essence, there's nothing wrong with that. But once it gets within the College of Engineering, make sure that the scope of how they can use it is all inclusive, so it doesn't box them in.
Got it.
Now, if you want a specific portion of it to be for scholarship, you need to state that. Say half needs to be used for scholarship, half needs to be used for departmental or college support. But you have to be direct in that, because in essence, even though it's coming to the foundation, we have in this case, the dean involved to make sure that these dollars, as we receive them, and that's where I come into play there. I have to make sure the dollars that we received are being used the way that they were contributed or donated.
Got it. So let me, and I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, but so we have developed an invoice, and in the invoice, we do have it specifically by dollar. So for example, and I'm not looking at it right now, but say I have 5,000 for book scholarships. So that could include 10 book scholarships, $500 a piece.
Right.
If we have it broken down or detailed at that level, at the end of the year, is there any flexibility if we do not use those dollars to shift them to a different category that's on our invoice that we provide?
Yeah, what we always require from my end is, if there's going to be a change outside of what the initial directive was, we have to get that in writing from the donor.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? If the dean of the college comes back and said, well, we have these dollars remaining, can we use them for this, this, or this? And we have to get that approval from the donor, because like I said, on the front end, it was stated that we had to use it for this purpose. And when you get to the end of the project or the fiscal period that we have to use the dollars in, you have to go back to the donor and say, well, we've utilized it for everything that was laid out in the initial request, but we'd like to redirect it to do this. So that has to come back. That has to incorporate the donor in that process.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we just got an exclusive right here, and that's how Mr. Norton felt when he heard about Bank of America to the news. So I appreciate DTE and the work they're doing. So everyone in this call just heard that DTE is about to give some funds to Tennessee State and more than likely our College of Engineering. So that's great stuff. For those who just joined the call, if you have any questions for Mr. Norton at this time, you can either put it in the chat or you can ask him right now. We probably have another 10-15 minutes before this chat is over with, so feel free to ask right now.
Mr. Northington, due to the recent retirements, are those positions going to be filled?
They are, and I mean, I know we've been impacted greatly. We have Cassandra's leaving. She was part of the department. Betsy's retiring. Darlene retired. So that's a lot of your experience on that end. It's myself. I know many of you may have worked with Daphne and Teresa over the years, but we're still on this end doing our best. I'll put it that way. I would figure within the next part of the year, or the new year, I should say, the first quarter of the new year, yeah, we would have new individuals in place, or at least I'm hoping so. So we can keep up the, the quality of service that we do provide out of our area. Because even though you have people go out, the volume doesn't change. So you got to have the people resources in place to keep everything, to keep the boat afloat, put it that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at this time? Well, I will say, Mr. Norton, I do appreciate your time today that you've taken on this early morning. Just so everyone know, as we know, Nashville is on Central Time. We're on Eastern Time, so it's a little bit earlier for him than us. So I appreciate him getting up and being on this call at 10 a.m. to speak to us about our alma mater and unrestricted and restricted funds, as well as breaking down the recent donations that have been given to our university and giving us some insight into what the university needs are. So I'm going to ask one last time, is there any more questions before we close this conversation out? I really enjoyed talking with Mr. Norton, the insight he's given to us already. But I did record this so to share with our alumni members who have not been, who are not on the call, so that they can get this information at least and can play it back for themselves. But going one last time, anybody else won't have any questions for Mr. Northington, because I want him to be able to enjoy his Saturday and be able to not think about Tennessee State until Monday. But I do appreciate the work that he does on a regular basis for our alma mater.
Well, I'm gonna say it this way: I don't. It's not a time that I don't get to think about TSU. I'll get a call. Look, I'll get a call. 20. No, I won't say 24/7, but every day of the week I'll get a call. Believe me, for something. But I mean, I appreciate being able to talk with you at this time. As I stated earlier. In the chat, I see they have my office number and my email address, so you're welcome to ask any questions by shooting me an email or give me a call, and we can discuss things. Hey, because I always look, I try not to give any excuses for you not to make donations back to the university. We look at every avenue to allow you to do that. We have many opportunities for our alum to, stay engaged, both fiscally and in relation to the activities that are going on campus. So we look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing your name come through the portal for me, and we appreciate you.
Mr. Northington, this has been great. I've really enjoyed the information you've shared. And I was going to ask you what keeps you up at night. I think I already know. But what is our current participation rate? Do you know that?
I think the last one, I'm gonna say, I think we just had a foundation board meeting, but we didn't go over that. They were mainly looking at some transitional things, but I think we had got to the point of where we were at about 6, maybe 7%, which is still on the low end. We prefer to be in at least double digit. If we can get to, it'll be magical. I'm gonna say it this way: if we can get to 10%, because if you get to 10%, you look at the number of alum that we have. I think we're utilizing about a 60 some odd thousand graduated alums, or say alums. So we can get to the $6,000 gift, individuals giving gifts, I put it that way, which must be alumni. We'll be doing good. I know a lot of times people look at like Claflin or even Spelman. I think Claflin at one period of time, they were at 50%. Wow. But, I don't know what their overall alumni number is. But yeah, they were showing that big 50% giving rate. But we're just looking right now to get to double digits. So when we get to 10%, that'll be a reason to celebrate.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Another question, Mr. Northington, in regards to giving and the match, let's say for companies like Bank of America, DTE, alumni who work for them, let's say alumnus work for a company that doesn't already have a connection for that matchmaking. How can the university and that company connect so that if that alumni want to give, that their company can match it?
Well, it's really up to the company as it relates to matching gifts. If you're in a corporation that provides matching, please take the opportunity to participate in that, because I think we had Exxon. We had an alum from Exxon. He had an opportunity for a 3-to-1 match as it relates to their overall giving. They give $1,000, we get an additional $3,000 through that particular match. But it really depends on the company. But you have to seek that out on your end to see go to your human resource area and see if they offer that as a benefit for your respective companies. If they are not a matching gifts company, ask them to think about it. When we get back in a better fiscal state as a global community, you look at it that way to see if they can maybe put that on the board to have those opportunities to match. And if you're in a work for a state or a governmental entity, that probably won't happen. But as it relates to any corporation, private corporation, yeah, just talk with your HR department and see if that could be a possibility. If not now, sometime in the future.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought up state and federal government. I don't know if you're familiar with the combined federal campaign. Yes. The Tennessee, so is our foundation a part of that? Because I know in previous years I have not seen us on the list.
I think the last time we tried to submit an application for that, I believe it was denied, and it's a component with it that requires. I have to go. I'm not well versed in it at the moment, but there are some components that are involved in that in order for you to be part of it. And with us being a state school, it was something that kicked us out. I think many of those schools that are part of that were private, if I recall. So that's something we have been trying to become part of it. We just haven't been successful at it as of yet.
Okay, I appreciate that insight. So anyone else with any further questions for Mr. Northington on this early morning? Again, we have enjoyed this conversation, enjoyed the insight he's given us into restricted and unrestricted funds and updating us on where the University Foundation stands with funds and participation in the giving rate right now. So last chance to ask any other questions.
One thing I do want to add while we're on this call, I was got our email yesterday, wanted to know how did we end as far as our endowment at the end of fiscal year 20. we're at about $63 million. I do know we have an internal goal of getting to $100 million by, I think it's 2025. So just keep that in your ear and help support in that manner too.
I appreciate that information as well. So we get all the scoops and all the tea right now. So we might have to bring you back another 3 to 4 months to give us some more updates.
Yeah, I know this all in the family. So hey, yeah, just let me know. Just let me know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, we appreciate the information that was shared. Thank you, Dr. Lyons, Rita, Janine, Denise, for getting on this call, and especially thank you, Mr. Norton, for the information you shared with us today in regards to restricted and unrestricted funds, as well as the overall goal of where our endowment is right now and where we hope to be by 2025. So we got a lot of work to do as alumni. We got to keep pushing out there. As you heard, we keep talking about scholarships, and while we love giving for our own book scholarship and foundation scholarship from Detroit, we also need to think about giving some unrestricted funds, even if it's just $5 a month or $20 a month or whatever you can give depending on your financial resources. We encourage you to give to the university, unrestricted and restricted. So that our university can have the funds necessary to support students, because it's all about the students, regardless if it's for a building, for scholarships, for residence halls, but more than anything, those scholarships really can pave the way for a high achieving student who has no scholarships, as Mr. Norton alluded to. It should not be a student at Tennessee State University who's high achieving and has no type of scholarship funds, because those are the students that is a guaranteed graduation right there, as long as they get the funds necessary to graduate. And when we think about that, we don't only want to see our endowments grow, we want to see our graduation as well as our alumni participation given rate grow as well. So any final words, Mr. Norton, before we close out?
No, the only thing I'd like to say is if there are any alum that you're aware of that are not donating to the foundation or supporting the university, have a conversation with them. I do that all the time. A lot of my classmates, they're still, I won't say skeptical, but they are. I always throw back at them. I'm like, you can come to homecoming and you can spend all this money at homecoming, but I'm just asking you for $50 or maybe $100 to support the sustainability of the institution that allowed you to catapult to where you are. So I always throw that out there, but just share that with your close friends and even those that have an affinity for TSU. So just keep TSU in the forefront, and I think we'll be okay.
Thank you for those words. Those are our words spoken very wise, and we appreciate it. So thank you everyone for being on the call. We'll present more calls like this in the near future so that we can keep our alumni educated on the university and how we can better support it. Thank you.
All right. Have a good
Thank you, Dr. Northington.
Okay.